G'day and Kaya, and welcome to the Australians Teach English podcast, the podcast by language learners, with language learners, for language learners. My name is Glenn, and I'm the host of the Australians Teach English podcast. And if you would like to support this project, then you can do so at Patreon at patreon.com/Australians Teach English. And I really appreciate the support from our patrons right now. And it gives me a lot of motivation to keep doing this show as well. And without further ado, I will introduce my next guest on the show, who is an expert at organising do's. And in fact, I was at a do on the weekend, which was organised by Johnny from latinrock.au. And so to talk more about do's and this fabulous word in English is my friend Margo. So welcome to the show, Margo.
Hi, Glenn. Thank you for having me. So
Not
happy to be here.
Yeah, not a problem. Not a problem. Thanks for coming on. So, Margo, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Okay, nice to meet you, everyone. I'm from Colombia. I have been here in Australia for 8 years now. And what I do is I organize parties. Basically, I do Latino parties, big events, and I do live in Adelaide. So yeah, basically that's what I do, and I love it. Let me say it.
I think this is a bit of a theme with a lot of people that come to Australia, a lot of Latinas that come to Australia. They are naturals at organizing do's. They are naturals at organizing parties. So tell us a little bit about your history in Australia, about how you came to be living in Adelaide and what brought you here and all the rest.
Actually, I came here because I was heartbroken back in Colombia 8 years ago, basically. So from Colombia, I arrived to Brisbane.
Woo.
Okay, so I arrived to Adelaide 8 years ago, and then I
Did,
start
did you
being
arrive in
in.
Adelaide 8 years ago or in Brisbane eight
Oh no,
years
sorry, Brisbane. Sorry, to Brisbane. Yeah, I arrived to Brisbane, and I start being involved because I'm a dancer. So in these parties, they need some performers sometimes. And yeah, they needed a dancer. I did the casting, I passed, and I started being more involved in the parties, like hostess, bottle girl, promoter. So I said, like, okay, this is a really great business. And yeah, I start loving it. And then I get involved with my partner. He was my manager back at the time. And because their visa PR reasons, we had to move to Adelaide. So that's why we are here. And we say like, no, just stop. We're going to have an easy life here. I start working in a bank back in the time, a big branch, and he was being a chef. We were having our 9 to 5. We were like really settled, and then people start saying, "You guys should do a party in Adelaide because it's not a match in here, especially for young people." And we were like, oh, we're not sure, like we have to, we want to have a quiet life now. Was such a stressful night back in the time. And then we said like, yeah, why not? And then we started. And we started at the COVID time. Was really hard at the beginning
Mm.
because of all the regulations, all the things. So we launched the party, and then 2 weeks later the government will say no, everything has to be canceled.
You
We have to
literally
return the money.
you literally couldn't have chosen a worse time to start or
I
to or
know.
to restart. Yeah.
Yeah, we thought like, oh, yeah, it's going to be fast. No, it wasn't fast. So we have to return the money to people. Was really struggling, but the community support us really well. So we are so proud of this Latino community in Adelaide. And yeah, so we started with that. So the name of the party is Mambo. So it's a huge experience. A lot of people travel from Gold Coast, Brisbane, Melbourne to Mambo because we have 3 rooms basically. One is crossover. So we call it crossover. It's salsa, merengue, bachata, reggaeton. We have another one is cantina, like Mexican cantina, rancheras, vallenato, really for heartbroken people to drink and sing. And the another room is techno. So it's like a whole like Afro house, techno house. It's like a really complete experience. And yeah, we're happy because Mambo just had a song. It's called Secrets. And Secrets is just reggaeton, dancehall, urban kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I ended up in this business basically.
So the parties that you organize, the dues that you organize are pretty much a smorgasbord of Latin music, then we might
Yes,
say.
absolutely. Yeah. So it's for all of these people who enjoys Latin music. So we have a lot of Asians to come to our parties. Australians, hips, they love it.
Yeah.
So you would think, oh, just for Latinos. No, we have Europeans, Italian, French, everyone, Indians. I think it's kind of attractive for everyone.
Well, like I said at the beginning of the show, I think Latinos and Latinas have a knack for organizing dues, for organizing parties, and it's definitely something that often is missing in the Australian landscape as well. Because
Yeah.
as you might have discovered, going from Brisbane or the Gold Coast to Adelaide, it might have been a little bit of a shock when it came to nightlife. So, did you get a little bit of a shock when you moved to Adelaide from Brisbane?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, for example, just to give you an example, in Brisbane, we used to do the party every weekend, every Friday, every Saturday was pumping. But in Adelaide, we have to do it every month because we don't have enough crowd in here to support all the party, all the staff, all everything for the money matters. So yeah, we have to do it monthly. And yeah, it's getting big now. The community, I think, I like to think, but I still no. For example, we bring artists from South America to Australia as well. So it's a other part of the business. So we bring comedians, South American comedians, reggaeton singers, etc. And actually, one of the last shows we had is a famous Colombian comedian, and he said to us, "No more Adelaide, please."
Fantastic.
Yeah, he
Fantastic.
was happy in Sydney, he was happy in Melbourne, he was happy in Brisbane, but he says like, please guys, I don't want to be disrespectful, but the crowd is really small,
Mm-hmm.
and as a performer, I take the energy from the crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not the same. He says like it's not the same. He's a huge comedian in Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were like, oh, so we are not that yet.
Okay. So he was saying more Adelaide. He wants more from Adelaide. He doesn't want
Yeah.
to come to Adelaide more. Okay, I interpreted
Yeah.
that incorrectly. I interpreted that
Yeah, it's not
incorrectly.
enough.
Yes, but people will be aware that the Latin community in Adelaide and South Australia is definitely growing. And one
Yeah.
of the reasons for that is I'm not sure if it still is, but a, it was counted as a regional zone for people applying for permanent residency. So, how was your experience with that? Did that help you gain your permanent residency as well?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, that was the reason that we moved from Brisbane with my partner to Adelaide. He's a chef, and thanks to him, we got it because he did all the process because cookery was on the list as well.
Mm-hmm.
And being a regional, that was the reason why. And absolutely, that was the reason because we got it because it was a regional area. And
Fantastic.
one of the reasons that I ended up staying here is because when I was in Brisbane, yeah, I loved it, but I wanted to work in marketing. That's my specialty. So I didn't get any job in marketing. It was waitressing, bartending, cleaning, and I mean, I'm so proud of it. But I was like pursuing my career in there in Brisbane. I came here 1 month ago. 1 month, sorry, 1 month later, I got the job in marketing, like straight. So in here, I have been developing my career. So more opportunities in here. That's what I feel.
Fantastic. So it was much easier for you in a regional area to actually pursue what you wanted to do.
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. So for people coming to Australia and they might just be looking at, for example, Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne, what would be your advice to people that maybe do want to pursue their actual career when they come to Australia?
I always ask, when people ask me, I always ask, what do you want? What do you see yourself in 10 years, 5 years? Do you see yourself living in Australia? Or you just come here to learn English, have fun, know the culture, and just going back? If you want that, I recommend you Brisbane. It's really warm, people is really nice, it's kind of cheap as well for students, it's budget friendly. But if you want to stay here in Australia, if you want to pursue your life in here, Adelaide in regionals, definitely. So I would say don't waste your time going to the big cities, because this happened to me. And I start doing childcare back in the time. Ah, because that's another thing. Some agencies, they just send you because they are going to receive some, how can I say in a nice word, some commission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not because they truly care about you. So this happened to me. A bad agency gave me a really bad advice back in the time. Then from childcare, I jumped to aged care. Didn't work as well. So hopefully I had my partner that I got the process through. But in the big cities, it's getting complicated.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so this is also another thing is if you do have especially when it comes to education agents, if you are going through that pathway, make sure that you get good advice and get independent
Oh,
advice, as well
absolutely.
as advice for work and so on, because you don't necessarily know if someone is just trying to sell you a course because they get a commission from it or not, or
Mm-hmm.
whether or not they are actually giving you genuine advice that is going to actually help you in what you want to do. And also with your advice about going to regional areas, I can't stress that enough. And it is also a reason why I ask people when they do come to Australia, or if they're thinking of going to Australia, well, what is your plan? Do you just want to stay there for a year and work, or leave? Because if you do come to the end of your first year or second year when your visa is expiring, it's really too late to start going, well, actually, I want to stay here. So unfortunately, it is something that you want to plan well ahead of time.
Exactly. I think I lost like 4 years in Australia, going back and forth. I ended up in childcare and aged care, and then going in a loop. And I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah. Sort of without actually making progress towards what you wanted to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Totally.
when you came to Australia, to Brisbane first before Adelaide, Adelaide was obviously a shock. But when you came to Brisbane first, what were your first impressions of Australia, and what was the most difficult thing for you?
I loved it so much because it was my first time going abroad. So it was the first time I was out of Colombia. For me, was everything was new. I loved it so much. I love the city. The city is beautiful. I'm in love with Brisbane. Actually, one of the reasons that I wanted to stay in Australia was because of Brisbane. The city is amazing. The people is really nice too. And for me, I think the English at the beginning, I was struggling a lot.
Mm,
Yeah, it was Australian English because I was used to American, and
mm-hmm.
then come here, I was like, how's it going? What? What is that?
Yes.
The slang, the accent, everything was so different to me. So I think for me was I was mute. Ugh, I didn't understand anything. I didn't know how to express myself. I feel stupid as well because imagine you are in this place, you cannot communicate. How can I say my feelings? You cannot. You feel awful. But then when I was progressing, I hug myself now, and I say to people, it's a process. Everyone is in the same pathway. So this is a process where I recommend immerse yourself in the Australian culture. We love Latinos. I know we love Latinos. I know we love our language. But nah, like you need to. I say like peel off the band-aid.
Peel
Just
off the
do it.
band-aid, rip it off. Yep.
Yes, rip it off and do it. Start talking and start trying to get in that job in with Australians, and yeah, basically.
So if there's one piece of advice for people looking to come to Australia when it comes to their English, or people that are already here in Australia looking to improve their English, is there one piece of advice that you could give them about improving their English?
That's what I say. I say you learn English in the streets, like actually doing it. It's ask to people things. People here is so nice. They are really, they're not like French. No, they here people will understand definitely. They will help you. Just try to talk to people. Try to get a job as well with Australians. Like try to do it at least, because I remember my first time trying to get a job. I was like, resume. Next time I was like, oh, here is my resume. Next time I was like, hi, can I talk to you? You know, like you are improving. You're trying to make small steps. And one day you're going to get there.
Fantastic. So that's a great little approach, is just trying to improve little by little. So one thing is like a different way of saying the same thing. Instead of saying just resume, here is my resume, or could you please have a look or at my resume, or all of these sorts of things. Just trying to say something that you're doing repetitively, but in a slightly different way, and improving
Exactly.
that. That's a fantastic approach to take. Well done. Well done. So was there one particular word that you, when you came to Australia, that was difficult for you, or that you liked to use once you understood that word?
I mean, like for me was I cannot even pronounce it really well now. Usually.
Usually?
No, usually. Like earrings,
Oh,
bracelets.
jewelry.
I cannot with that word.
But that's not a particular, that's just a general English word. That's not an
Okay,
Australian word.
okay. For Australian, like it's really specific slang. Huh. Well, it's a lot of slang, but I don't remember one specifically that was hard to me. But I have a lot of funny stories, for example, with akadaka.
Akadaka. Being involved in music, you will probably hear this one quite a lot. And when someone said akadaka to you, probably were like, what? Is that is that what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, so they were talking about and they asked me, "Oh, do you like metal music or rock, like akataka?" I was like,
Because no one in Australia says ACDC.
"No." Or oh, Macca's. Oh,
Macca's.
actually, I had a date with an Australian boy back in the time. Oh, we met at Macca's. I was
It's
like,
not
"What?"
not an exciting place for a first date. That's pretty unimaginative.
It was like a point, like a midpoint.
So coming back to this word do, in terms of Australian English, a do, what do you think a do might actually be?
Rephrase it, like give an example.
So you organize do's. You are going to
Mhm.
organize a do.
Okay. So, for example, like I do the marketing part of the business. So I do sell the tickets as well online through the social media.
Not quite. So if I was to do it in another way, I might say it's a shindig. This is another way of saying this.
Oh, no, explain it to me.
So a do in Australian English, or in British informal English, is another word for party.
Okay, okay, good, good.
So if I say your job is organizing do's, I mean that your job is organizing parties. So
Wow.
if someone says I'm going to a do, that means I'm going to a party.
Okay, okay, okay. So that's really good to know.
It's probably less common in usage now, but it's definitely something that Australians and British people use informally.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so that's do as a noun, but do is a really fascinating word because there's no word quite like it in English. And a lot of English learners do struggle with this little word do. Have you had troubles with this little word do?
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. So, for example, when I have to like the conjugation sometimes,
Give us an
and
example.
when I was learning the past participle, like I have done, I was saying I have do, I have did. It was confusing, the conjugation of that.
Mm-hmm.
And with time, I learned, I have done the party 3 years ago in Brisbane.
So
So
this is actually one interesting feature of Australian English that I didn't know about until recently, is that apparently we use this past participle of do, which is done, a lot more than other versions of English, which was news to me. So it does make sense that other people would find this especially difficult when they're learning Australian English to use the past participle correctly.
yeah, that was one of the first things that was complicated for me, the do in do terms.
Okay. What if I was to say, like, do the dishes?
Well, I wasn't used to that, and then I heard it in here. I was like, what? Yeah. And I do
So,
the bed as well.
yeah, I mean, technically we should say make the bed, but make is a very similar word to do in terms of we use it quite a lot. And so
Mm.
we call these words, these small words like do and make, replacement verbs. So instead of saying like wash the dishes, we can say do the dishes. And when we say do the dishes, we actually mean wash the dishes. So the word do is replacing that verb wash. It's the same, like, for example, do the washing. You're washing your clothes. That's actually
Yeah.
replacing the other words in the sentence there.
Okay, good. Good to know.
Are there any other ways that do has got you in trouble or that you found difficult?
Hmm. Yeah, for example, I do live. So I didn't get it at the beginning. I usually just use the simple present. I live, I run, but in here I heard that I do live, I do run.
So
And then
yeah, so actually using it as an emphasis as well.
Mhm.
So often people mark sentences and stress sentences differently with the word do. And so, like, if someone wants to say, like, I lived in a different suburb, but I do live now in, they're actually making the point and making it clear that the important information is going to follow the word do. So that is also another way that we use do.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
you might
sorry.
go for it.
No, no, sorry. I was going to say, how you call it? I don't know the technical term. When you say, "Oh, I did this, didn't I?"
Yeah. Yeah. So you're using it as a question tag on the end of a sentence.
Question tag. Yeah,
Yeah. So
as
it's
well.
very, very, very similar to a common one is when we're talking about the weather. So you might go outside and you say, "Oh, it's a beautiful day today, isn't it?"
Mm.
In the same way as, "Oh, I already did that, didn't I?" So
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of using that as a confirmation at the end of a sentence.
Yeah, so for me it was confusing because I was sometimes using the wasn't I
Well, you
instead of didn't
can.
I.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so this is the really interesting thing with the word do is that it has so many different meanings, and it has evolved over such a long period of time because it's actually one of our oldest words in the English language, that it can be used in so many different forms, in so many different sentences, in so many different ways. And so people that are learning English as a second language, they will often use do a lot less than what native speakers will. And so it is one trick that people can use is to develop their use of the word do, and it will help them to sound more natural when they're speaking.
Okay.
So there's another particular thing in Australian English when we use the word do. Like if you get an injury, like to a particular part of your body, like a classic one is people's hamstrings or people's knees, and they will say, he's done a hammy or he's done a knee. And so
Okay.
again, this is like use of the past participle we do to done to mean that he's injured their hamstring or their knee or their back or their shoulder or something along these lines. So if you're watching sport, you're listening to sports commentary in English in Australia, that's something that you will definitely hear.
Okay. Good to know too. I learned many things today.
Yeah. So in English, when we have a do, that we could call it a party, but there are many different ways that we could call it. So we might have a gig, especially if it's with live music,
Mhm,
if it's with a band. We might have a shindig. We
mhm.
might have a get together. All of these sorts of things. In Spanish, how many different ways could you say fiesta?
Oh, many. Depends on the country. For example, in my city, Bogota, we say farra.
Ah, that's a new one. Farra. I haven't heard of that
Yeah, for
one.
Bogota. Rumba.
Urumba. Mm-hmm.
And now we say like perreo. O sea, el perreo. It's like for new generations.
Perrear.
Uh, sorry?
Perrear.
Perrear.
Yeah.
Yeah, fiesta, farra, rumba. Yeah, I'd add another one. Ah, well, in Mexico they say vamos a la peda.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, it depends on the country, I think, in many cities.
Yeah. So like in Argentina, joda is a classic one. Um,
Okay. Okay.
junta, juntada, and even like they've borrowed from English, like in terms of after party, they would just say after now as
Oh,
well.
mm-hmm.
And in English, we might say like go for pre-drinks. You go to someone's house, have drinks before you go somewhere else. In Argentina, they would call that a previa, la
La
previa.
previa.
But I
Mm.
think that's probably a more sort of common one.
Yeah, la previa. We say it
Mm.
as well.
Yeah. What
Yeah. Or
about
el
like,
after.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what if a party is going really well? How would we say that in Spanish? Like if a party is
Like
going really well.
está del putas. I
That's
like
that's kind of that's kind of rude though.
no, it's because Colombians we mix a lot of bad words, but could be good sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like for example, I wouldn't say here because I don't know if I can say it.
Go for it.
Gonorrea.
Oh,
La gonorrea is como is like it's really good. Like is for example, esa fiesta estuvo una gonorrea. It's like it was really, really, really good. But if
wow.
you're fighting with someone and just use it, you're attacking him. It depends of the context. So it
Okay.
could be something really good or really badly.
Or an insult. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. I would have thought like calling someone gonorrhea is automatically an insult. Like that's not really doesn't have a positive connotation to it. But I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of like something could be wicked, for example, like in English, like it has a negative or originally had a negative connotation, but then came to mean something positive. So like if something is wicked, then it is actually good in terms of slang as well. So that's not an
Yeah.
uncommon experience. Like in Argentina, like if a party is doing well, we would say it's manija, rey manija, like off
Manija.
literally off the handle or something like that. But
Okay.
in terms of Australian English, have you got any ideas as to how we could express a party or a get together that is doing well? What kind of
Um,
expressions would we use?
Dope was really dope.
Mm-hmm.
Was Kila.
Killer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I have heard from my Australian friends.
What about lit?
Lit, yeah,
What
as
about
well.
what about going off?
Yeah, as well.
So that would be the translation that I would use for manija would be it's going off.
Going
Um,
off.
and that is shortened from another Australian expression going off like a frog in a sock. You might have heard
Yeah,
you might have heard this one as well.
yeah.
So
Um,
mhm. Are there
No,
any
I was
others
trying
that
to
you can
remember.
think of?
I was remember. Yeah, no, I think those ones are the ones.
Yeah. So probably like, I guess sort of the more recent slang would be like lit. This party's lit. That's sort of something I guess that's become much more common in the last 10 years. I'm not sure if it's going out of fashion any at the moment, but that's certainly one that has popped up recently anyway.
Yeah, no, definitely. I
So
agree.
so tell us about the next do's that you are organizing. What have you
So
got
the
on the
next,
agenda?
yeah, the next one is Halloween. So in the 25th of October. So we are going to have costume contest, food, reggaeton, crossover, reggaeton, salsa, bachata, everything. And we're going to have performances, dancers, 3 DJs. It's going to be wild. So people love Halloween, especially Americans. So we are South Americans. So Americans, we love Halloween. I think Australia is not that huge like in America.
No, it's definitely
Like
not.
we do it in America is huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is definitely one that sounds wicked. In
Yeah.
all senses of the word, like a wicked witch, that would be, a co-location with wicked, but in these terms of a Halloween party, it would be wicked. That's what I would
Yeah.
say.
Literally. Lit.
Literally. Yeah, it's and lit. Exactly. Awesome. Awesome. So, and these parties are organized every month in Adelaide, are they?
Correct. So at the moment, because we have Mambo is coming back on December. So Mambo is a little bit quiet at the moment. We're doing secrets, like the reggaeton urban kind of thing. So secrets and Mambo eventually they're going to be in the same month eventually. But at the moment, so we are doing secrets monthly.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. And where can people, if they are living in Adelaide or South Australia and interested in partying a little bit more, where can they find information on these events, on these do's?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So on our Instagram, so we do a lot of things there, and our promotion is there. So it's at mambo.adelaide.
Perfect.
And same with secrets at secrets.au. And on Facebook, you can find us as well. And if not, just come to the Gatsby Lounge. That is the place where we host the party. We host the
Whereabout,
do. So
whereabouts is that?
the Gatsby Lounge is in the city, literally in
Okay.
the Grenfell Street.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So that's where you
Yeah.
hold your dues. That's where you do your dues.
Yeah, secrets is there. So we are going to when we do in Mambo, it's going to be in another venue. So we will announce it soon.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. So hopefully that's a big help for all those people listening out there, because this little word do does cause a lot of English learners a lot of grief. And one of those reasons is that it can mean and do so many different roles in sentences and in the English language. And so we've just added another one to people's vocabularies. And I hope that hasn't been too confusing for those listeners out there. So thanks for coming on the show, Margo. Most
Oh, thank
appreciated.
you. No, thank you for inviting me. I enjoy it so much. Thank
Not
you.
not a problem. So from us here at the Australians Teach English podcast, the podcast by language learners, with language learners, for language learners, it's us saying goodbye. Hooroo. Have a good one.
Bye.
For more information about the Australians Teach English Institute, go to australiansteachenglish.com or follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Australians Teach English.